Dito tayo para gumawa ng hemp oil. Ito yung na-crush na weed. So, lalagay natin sa pan.
This popular knowledge about marijuana is largely influenced by the documentary Weed. It showed why Sanjay Gupta said marijuana works and in some cases is the only thing that works.
Impaired short-term memory, impaired motor coordination, altered judgment, and in high doses, paranoia and psychosis.
Ang marijuana po ay gateway drug for harder drugs like yung mga methamphetamines, cocaine.
Now, we've been terribly and systematically misled.
Tulad ng cancer, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease at lupus.
Para sa safety natin, kailangan natin ng electric fan para ma-eliminate niya yung evaporation ng alcohol.
How you on your side can be at least an eye-opener for the doctors who are scientifically based.
In the 1970s, President Nixon appointed the Medical College of Virginia and gives them 2 years to do extensive studies on the effects of marijuana. The results that they found were the active chemical agent in marijuana curbs the growth of 3 kinds of cancer.
On Monday, Alban files House Bill 4477 or the Compassionate Use of Medical Cannabis Bill.
Who's for the passage of this? So you're all for the passage of the bill. Who's against po? Okay, the doctors, all the doctors.
Recreational marijuana is being smoked in Barack Obama's backyard.
It's now available in honey form, in chewing gum, in sugar, and even cosmetic foot cream.
The legal marijuana market is worth almost $1.5 billion.
Legal sa Amerika ang paggamit ng marijuana bilang gamot sa iba't ibang sakit, pero sa Pilipinas, illegal ang marijuana.
Ipinapanawagan ni Senator Vicente Soto III sa Senado. Sinabi na senador na lalong makakasama ito sa publiko sakaling gawing legal ito.
The UPPGH National Poison Management and Control Center and the Philippine Society of Clinical and Occupational Toxicology oppose House Bill number 4477. The risk of endangering the sanity of the Filipinos outweighs the benefit to the small number of people for whom medical marijuana has been shown to be effective. The Colorado experience demonstrates that this problem will escalate with legalization of the use of marijuana.
No. I'm just saying that that the Colorado bill is recreational. What we're doing here is controlled, regulated. That's why we invited all the doctors to share their views on how we could go about.
In this day and age of high technology, wherein everyone has access to the internet, no? So we are swamped with a lot and voluminous information from social sites. And because of that voluminous information, and we end up more confused. It may be better not to do something or even to do nothing than to risk causing more harm than good.
I don't believe you won't do anything pag may nakikita ka na pasyente. Kung ikaw yung magulang, I don't think na gagawin mo yun.
First line na sinasabi natin sa mga daga, mga pusa, siguro doon muna natin study siya. And then we go and get the purified form. Kung gusto nating gawin siya dito sa Pilipinas, so much the better. But not on patients immediately.
A trial should be conducted to confirm whether that drug is effective, safe, right? Ang tawag doon po clinical trial. Based on anecdotal reports or ang level of evidences may not be high to withstand a registration. Ngayon, kung yung cannabis na yan ma-prove in a clinical trial na napag-aralan ho ng mga taga-FDA, a-approvean ho yan for general use. Ang next question yan, whether it has impact on the safety of the general public. That's why some drugs papasok sa PIDEA at mag-e-S2 ka.
Doctor, we are on the same wavelength. Nagkakalabuan lang tayo kung pumapasok na kaagad yung recreational use of that drug. Kasi parang ang nangyayari sa bill, pag sinabi ng compassionate use of marijuana, pumapasok na yung Colorado, pumapasok na yung experience ng mga tao na kahit sino pwede gumamit. Kaya nga po namin kayo tinawag lahat para makuha ho yung idea nyo na gagawa tayo ng institution to do this. Ang hirap i-import yung drug.
My son is Jacobo Joaquim Andal Ballesteros, so we fondly call him Sachi. So Sachi is a Japanese name which is happiness or giver of joy. So technically, since mahaba yung pangalan niya, Jacobo Joaquim, Sachi na lang yung tawag namin sa akin.
Okay, my name is Cecil Sarda, 36 years old. My son is Gabriel Sarda. Mother ako ng epileptic child. We live in Valenzuela.
Hello, I'm Shells, mommy ni Nina Sampaio, na diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor with hydrocephalus nung siya ay 3 months old. Sabi nung therapist na kasi mas ideal ko lagi daw siya nakaupo.
When my wife was pregnant, we went into congenital pre-screening kasi my wife has a heart ailment. So we were afraid na baka namanan ni Sachi. So before he was born, we went into that screening. And then nalaman dun sa ultrasound at 7 months pregnancy, parang may problema dun sa formation ng brain niya.
Ay, ang bigat-bigat. Kung compare ko sa ibang bata na dapat nakakatayo na, independent na siya dun kahit man lang sa crib, hindi nakakapagsalita, drooling lang, naglalaway. Sobrang daming laway sa crib niya. Dumating yung June 2008, inatake siya. Bumagsak siya, nangisay. Yung tinatawag nila, sinasabi nila na grand mal seizure.
Nag-undergo na din ng operasyon ang aking anak nung 3 months siya para mag-shunting para hindi lumaki yung kanyang ulo gawa ng hydrocephalus. Sa ngayon, siya ay may mga anticonvulsant dahil siya rin ay mayroong seizure disorders.
So nung 8 months old siya, doon na nagsimula. Nag-seizure siya ng 8 months old. Talagang nangitim siya. Akala nga na wala na eh. So yun, takbuhan na kami sa ospital. Pagdating sa ospital, na-confine siya ng mga 5 araw. Tapos doon nalaman, meron siyang epilepsy.
Existing studies on marijuana, 19,000 of them, 19,000 studies prove that marijuana has potential medicinal value. And in some cases, it's the only medicine that probably works.
Current laws basically prevent you from even possessing, di ba? Possessing marijuana.
As far as the Philippines is concerned, because there's no scientific research yet. There's nothing.
No accepted.
Because there's no scientific research. There's no medical research on marijuana. So how can we accept it
in the Philippines?
In the Philippines.
Unlike people, we are restricted by boundaries. Knowledge knows no boundary. Go to the internet, look for an application called Google and type.
Alam mo, sa buhay natin, dumadating yung panahon na importante na makatulong ka sa iba eh. Nagkaroon kasi ako ng problema eh. I started having all these muscle pains when I was about 40 years old. And the only way it can be handled was through very powerful anti-inflammatory drugs like Celebrex, Flanax, Arcoxia, which, as we all know, has very bad side effects. So I started researching kung ano ang pwede kong gamitin na hindi delikado sa aking atay because I have hepatitis B and hindi delikado sa aking kidney because I know of a lot of people who died because of taking too many NSAID or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Researching on the internet, I discovered repeatedly that marijuana is supposed to be good for pain. At first, I was laughing. Sabi ko, tira mo mga stoner, nagkaroon na naman ng panibagong justification sa kanilang bisyo. But as I looked at all the studies being made, I realized that we are onto something. Yung wife ko, sabi sa akin, uy, meron ng mga advocates for medical cannabis, yung moms for marijuana.
Philippine Moms for Marijuana is a local chapter of Moms for Marijuana International. It's really a grassroots organization back then. So these are mothers who believe that marijuana is a beneficial plant and it should be available to everyone.
Nag-interest kami, nalaman namin merong pagkikita na gagawin sa Quezon Memorial Circle. Nagpunta kami, nag-show up kami, ang daming tao, masaya. Tapos it was about a baby, si Moon Jaden.
Una naming nakilala si Moon Jaden buwan ng Agosto. Masigla at tila malusog ang bata. Sa videong ito, 4 na buwan pa lang nang unang magka-seizure si Moon Jaden.
Looking around sa local marijuana forums, and then I chanced upon si June and Micah Yutok, the parents of Moon Jaden.
Nung nalaman ko yung Dravet na walang cure, I cried. I told my wife, baka hindi natin mapagaling si Moon.
I started posting sa Moms for Marijuana information about Moon Jaden.
I was posting few questions here and there. Is there anyone who has access to it?
Ang unang binanggit niya sa amin, tinawanan kami at sinabihan kami ng illegal yan.
Opo.
So hindi pwede.
Opo.
Huwag kayong maniniwala.
Nagpunta kami sa hospital. So yun, first time namin nag-face-to-face nila June, Micah, me, Shells.
Sabi ko naman dun sa ICU doctor ng anak ko, willing na akong bigyan ng marijuana yung bata. Meron na po akong makukuhanan. Ready na po.
Of course, as a parent, gagawin mo lahat yung magagawa mo to save your daughter, right?
Hindi siya sang-ayon. Huwag daw ibibigay sa bata dahil ito ay pag-aaral pa lamang.
Minomonitor na yung heart niya because basically she's just breathing through the respirator niya.
Sige, iuwi niyo na yung bata sa bahay para i-home care at doon niyo po bigyan kung anong gusto niyong ibigay.
They're trying to revive her. Piniplay nila yung mga favorite songs ni Moon that time. Tapos nandun yung mga toys niya. I visited her. I think, that was a Wednesday. She died the next day.
Mababaliwala ang purpose ng pagkamatay ng anak ko kung hindi po kami lalaban.
Nagtanong ako sa sarili ko, ba't ako nandito? Why am I here? Why I am involved in this movement?
The story of Moon Jaden brought everyone together.
The problem is, marijuana is illegal. A substance that is not allowed, that is subject to criminal prosecution kapag meron kang possession.
The highest penalty meted out for mere possession of marijuana, 500 grams or more, or 10 grams of marijuana resin or marijuana resin oil is life imprisonment to death. But since we don't have the death penalty now, it's commuted to life imprisonment, which translates to around 40 years of imprisonment.
I found what I think I can do best, which is to help create a legal environment so that people with legitimate medical needs for marijuana can have safe and affordable access to the medicine.
Can you help me pack away, please?
Daddy, I will get something.
Wait, can you help me pack away?
Daddy, I will get something.
Help pack away. Help pack away. Oh, tawag sa kanya, amazing Sachi nga eh. Despite the limitation. Whoop, whoop, whoop. You need help? Do you need help?
You need help.
I need help. Okay, you need help. What do you want to get ba?
Let's sing all together.
You want to sing all together?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let's sing to me.
Kapag may anak kang epileptic, you're in a virtual prison eh. Kasi gusto mo, kunyari, nag-aaya siya, let's go to the beach. Hindi ko, dun sa experience namin sa kanya, nung nag-status epileptic siya, isang oras siyang walang tigil na seizure.
How did you hear about cannabis as a medicine?
Well, sa office, alam nung certain close group ko na may medical condition yung anak ko, may seizure disorder. May nabasa sila sa dyaryo about this girl who recently died because of seizure non-stop, si baby Munjaden. Pagdating dun, talagang na apektado ka na eh. Then I started looking for the parent kasi gusto mo rin i-console eh. Nakita ko sa YouTube, meron dun na ANC, ini-interview sila. And then they were advocating for medical marijuana. Nung narinig ko yon, napanood ko, I started searching. And then I went into CNN, napanood ko yung kay Dr. Sanjay Gupta, yung WID. So si Charlotte. So sabi ko, wow, iba yung dating. Nakaka-relate ka kaagad kasi si Charlotte yata 300 seizures a week. So relate kang pinagdadaanan ng magulang nila kahit nasa ibang bansa.
Charlotte has Dravet syndrome. It's a rare, catastrophic form of epilepsy. When she turned 5, she really lost all seizure control. She was having 50 to 60 grand mal tonic-clonic seizures per day. And that's a seizure every 30 minutes. That's 1,200 seizures a month. She had lost the ability to swallow, to walk, talk, to breathe oxygen. And we were told there's nothing left to try.
I had a friend that was starting a business on making medicine. And I said, can you help me extract the medicine from this bag of marijuana? I measured it with a syringe and squirted it under her tongue.
She had this amazing success right off the gate. I didn't believe it. I was like, no. And so when Charlotte was the first patient, I said, I need to see 100 patients to really believe that this is working. And then 85% of that first 100 had the same first report.
To understand epilepsy, we have to think of the brain as a bunch of wires communicating with each other through electrical signals. In a seizure, there is discharge of high electricity throughout the brain. There is uncontrolled muscle movement, uncontrolled respiration, there are tremors. That's because of the unregulated discharge of electricity in the brain. The cannabinoid receptors limit the flow of electricity. They regulate it to a normal level such that normal communication of the brain cells is achieved. I'm a general practitioner practicing in Parañaque. I became a cannabis advocate before becoming a doctor. It was in first year medical school where I was asked to report on marijuana as a substance of abuse. I researched about its side effects, but what compelled me was its medical value. I didn't know about it until researching at that time, so ironically, I reported more on its medicinal benefits than the actual side effects. The endocannabinoid system is unheard of for most Filipino doctors because marijuana is viewed only as a substance of abuse and it has no medical applications here in the Philippines since you cannot prescribe cannabis. The endocannabinoid system, which is supposedly a normal part of the processes of the body, is neglected.
It is a word that even autocorrect doesn't recognize. Is it some made-up word by hippies on social media to make an excuse to legalize marijuana? As a matter of fact, it was discovered by an Israeli scientist in the 80s.
I was particularly interested in the individual constituents of the plant. Surprisingly, the constituents of the cannabis plant were not well known when we started work several decades ago.
All mammals have cannabinoid receptors in their bodies. Cannabinoid receptors can also be found in birds and reptiles. The two types of cannabinoid receptors are CB1 and CB2. CB1 receptors are located in the brain. CB2 receptors are mostly found in the immune system, or immune-derived cells, largely located at the spleen.
Morphine had been isolated from opium almost 150 years before that, and cocaine about 100 years before that, and yet the active component of cannabis had never been isolated in pure forms.
The cannabis plant contains cannabinoids. These cannabinoids fit like a lock and key with the endogenous receptors in our bodies. The most popular cannabinoid is THC. Another is cannabidiol, or CBD. CBD doesn't have psychotropic effects, meaning the user won't get high. Instead, the person will benefit from the compound's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-cancer properties. The main goal of the endocannabinoid system is homeostasis, or the harmonious relationship of cells in the body.
We have protective systems in our body. The immune system is a protective system. It guards us against microbes and viruses, things like that. And if we didn't have an immune system, we'll be dead within a week. Well, but we have the immune system and it guards us. But not everything, not all attacks on us are by things like microbes or viruses. There are other things, breaking a bone or having a head smashed or something like that. These are major things. Well, actually, the body has developed protective systems of this type, and indeed, the endocannabinoids are part of this protective system.
Our bodies were meant to receive cannabinoids. Breast milk naturally contains many similar cannabinoids found in cannabis. Maybe the hippies were onto something. Maybe people can know more about it because we have the internet now and social media. Can we get it written in the science books now?
Cannabis, marijuana, reefer, pot, weed, call it what you want. It's been around since the beginning of time. It's been around in both Indian and Chinese pharmacopoeia as a medicinal plant, and only reached Western consciousness with the publication of a study done by an Irish doctor named William O'Shaughnessy. So you would think that this plant that's been around forever would have had all of its effectivity and applications increased exponentially. Sadly, that's not the case. In the Philippines, it is still classified as Schedule 1 illegal, which ranks it in the same category as that of shabu, or meth.
My understanding about Philippines is that marijuana has been growing in the Philippines for a very long time. My understanding is you have a fairly punitive policy. My understanding is you have some of the worst policies on drug testing in the world. The reasons why some drugs are legal and others not has almost nothing to do with the relative risks of drugs, and almost everything to do with who uses and who is perceived to use particular drugs. When opiums were widely used in the United States primarily by middle-class white women, nobody thought to make it illegal. But when the Chinese came to the United States in the late 19th century, working on the railroads and mines with their opium traditions, that's when you saw the first prohibition. The same thing with cocaine and black people. In the United States, the origins of marijuana prohibition were all about racism against Mexican Americans and Mexican migrants, beginning in the early part of the 20th century.
We have to look back again to the 1930s in the United States and a man named Mr. Harry Anslinger, who was in charge of the Bureau of Treasury's Federal Bureau of Narcotics, a division in the United States government that was in charge of the prohibition of liquor. And since the prohibition was lifted, he needed to find a function for his office, an excuse to exist. But also, simultaneously, down south, racial tensions were rising at the border because Mexicans were crossing over illegally to take jobs as laborers because they were willing to work cheaper than the average American worker. His new target was those pesky Mexicans and all of their reefer smoking. So he took the extra money left over from the prohibition campaign and marched off to Hollywood and commissioned grand and national studios to create a film that would demonize marijuana. And his campaign did not stop there. He brought it all around the world. So by 1961, during the UN Single Convention on Narcotics, the Philippines, being a former colony of the United States, readily accepted this provision. And all of this was done at a time when marijuana, or cannabis, or weed was still being freely grown throughout the United States and the Philippines. So we can see that this ban against this plant is rooted in racism.
In the United States, there's almost no debate anymore about whether or not marijuana should be legal for medical purposes, because now over half of all Americans believe that marijuana should be legally regulated like alcohol. It's important to realize that the legalization of medical marijuana is not just a US phenomenon. I mean, keep in mind that the two countries which have the most sophisticated medical marijuana regulatory systems in the world are Canada and Israel. But in both those countries, notwithstanding the fact that they have right-wing governments, they have a well-regulated national medical marijuana program. And if you go to other countries in Europe, you see in the Netherlands, where marijuana is easily available, the government actually covers the health insurance. Chile in South America has just begun. There are now medical marijuana bills in Colombia and Brazil and Costa Rica and I think Argentina. Jamaica, you may have seen, just legalized marijuana, but it is really becoming a phenomenon throughout much of Europe and the Americas. When marijuana is legal in my country and yours, people will have a hard time understanding why it was ever criminal in the first place.
Dito po sa kinakampaign po namin na house bill. Which is? Nag-ano po kami ng mga pa-offer po. Balitiga Valenzuela din po ako.
Ano ito this is about?
The Medical
Actually,
Cannabis
medical
Bill of Congressman Albano. Did you get a copy of the HB 4477 on medical cannabis? Your office got it on September 3. And we are here sana to get the co-authorship forms. Ito tatlo yung na-receive niyo ba? Number 2, nasaan? Nasa table ba niya? Nabasa ba niya? Ano, may tutulas? Like otherwise, it just slips on there. It was received by Abby on September 3. September 4, it was received by James. Who's James? Kayo po!
Oo,
Sino si Abby?
That's ako.
So, where's the bill?
It's still here with me.
Ay. Paano, kailan niya kukunin ni Congressman?
I gave it to my boss and she's
What did you
studying
say?
it.
She's saying?
She's studying it first.
Ayan si Kong. Ay, good sure. Taga Valenzuela
Morning
po.
I'm Cecil Cerda po from Valenzuela din po.
And I'm Socorro Reyes. I'm the policy advisor of Congressman Albano. And we are here to ask your co-authorship for the medical cannabis bill.
Medical.
Cannabis, the medical. The need for a medical cannabis law was articulated by parents, especially mothers of patients suffering from various illnesses, particularly epilepsy, autism, and by patients themselves who had multiple sclerosis or cancer. And they approached Congressman Rodolfo Albano of the 1st District of Isabela if he can help them come up with a law that will allow the legal use of medical marijuana.
Mr. Speaker, may we acknowledge the presence of some guests in the gallery.
Please proceed.
The guests of the Honorable Rodolfo Albano, the Congressman of the 1st District of Isabela, the Philippine Cannabis Compassion Society, members of the Medical Cannabis Research Center, and the Medical Cannabis Policy Forum.
Will the guest of the Honorable Rodito Albano please rise to be acknowledged? You are welcome to the House of Representatives and thank you for your visit.
Medical marijuana, in generalize kasi. Diba? Ano yung medicinal marijuana? Wala pa naman, ano ba yung buong marijuana yan? Before wala pang siya buo. Nung college pa tayo. Lahat ng addict yung marijuana ang hindi. Meron talaga hindi na addict pero maraming tumikit na marijuana.
Lahat ng congressman?
Halos lahat sila.
Ikaw naging congressman?
Yeah.
They
Naging congressman
graduated
sila.
from marijuana to Congress.
So it's going to be read for first reading, referral for to the committee? First reading. We were, of course.
Thank you. Thanks.
House Bill 4477, regulating the medical use of cannabis. Representative Albano.
To the Committee on Health.
Hindi namin na-expect na mapupunta kami dito eh. Yung God's will nga, nandun yung direction namin eh. As a father, as a group, as petitioner for this oil.
Medical cannabis is totally different in relation to the recreational use. Kasi, isipin mo My son, Sachi, 7 years old. Recreational, di ko nang papahitit sa anak ko yun eh. Administration is totally different. And the content of the plant itself is totally different.
Kaya nagkaroon, sabi ko nga kanina, nagkaroon tuloy ng bad effect yung One Direction thing. Anyway, it's different anyway.
Magkaiba ho.
It's medical. Let's hit muna. Every year tumataas yung mga gamot niya. Ang dami nang nadagdag. Every 4 months, pinapakuha na namin siya ng dugo para matingnan yung liver niya, yung kidney. Minsan tumataas yung mga HGPT, nakakakaba. Awa ng Diyos, okay pa naman. Pero alam ko, pagdating ng araw, yung mga gamot na yun, makaka-affect dun sa mga organs niya.
She was prescribed valproic acid and phenobarbital.
Capra or levetiracetam. Clonazepam, Ribotril.
Lipat ng ibang gamot, dagdag, tanggal, dagdag.
Leptal, Kepra, Topamax, Lamictal.
2,680 mg a day.
Pag binasa mo yung drug literature ng mga anticonvulsant drugs, parang matatakot ka kasi ang kapal niya tapos ang dami niyang side effects na ayaw mo mangyari sa anak mo.
You can die with 20 tablets of paracetamol, but I can give you a kilo of cannabis, you won't die. And it's very difficult for you to commit suicide with cannabis. Benzodiazepines are mainly sedative drugs, and they have also muscle relaxant properties, and that's why they are useful in treating anxiety and inducing sleep, sedation, tranquilizing effect, and also anticonvulsant properties. On the other hand, benzodiazepines are also addicting. It can lead to serious addiction and physical and psychological dependence. After chronic use, they can become addicted to it, and when they stop it, they would have serious withdrawal symptoms. They would experience sleeplessness, irritability, confusion, aggressive behavior, and even suicidal tendencies.
Unfortunately, 30% of epileptic cases do not respond to medical management. There is usually prolonged use of multiple anti-epileptic drugs. And of course, as we all know, the more synthetic drugs you take, the more side effects your body is gonna feel.
You must remember also that certain illnesses has a spectrum of symptoms. And when you treat one symptom, there are associated symptoms that come with it. For example, if you are convulsing, there's also effect on your mood, on your cognitive function, and things like that, on your emotions. And cannabis is good in the sense that it addresses, while it has the anticonvulsant property, muscle relaxant property, it also improves your mood, your feelings, and it relieves the pain.
Cannabis is considered one of the safest medicines in history. There has been no death attributed to cannabis directly.
If you consume anywhere between 20,000 to 40,000 joints in 15 minutes, ewan ko kung magagawa mo yun. But if you are able to do that, probably you will die.
And so you can use some kind of educated guess system using the crude material. And that has been fine for several hundreds of years in indigenous peoples who have used cannabis for a long time. Cannabis, in fact, is much safer than other so-called dangerous drugs. And it's even safer than many of these prescription drugs that are allowed to be prescribed by the doctors, and even safer, I would say, to some of these over-the-counter drugs.
Kailangan nating salain yung weed na nag-grind gamit ng coffee filter. Okay. Ang case kasi ng anak ko is GDD, Global Delayed Development, and may seizure disorder. Mahirap alagaan yung anak ko dati nung under pa siya ng phenobarbital kasi tulala lang, nandun lang sa isang sulok, nakahiga maghapon, wala siyang ganang gumalaw. Nagsimula ako sa hemp oil, parang wow, daming nagbago. Laway, nawala. Pag maglalakad, parang diretso na yung dati, nakaganon na naglalakad. Hindi tinitignan yung daanan. Naging active, marunong na rin siyang kumain mag-isa. Siya na mismo pumupulot sa mga like biskwit, cracker. Para bang bigla na lang naging may normal na siyang ginagawa ng bata. Yung wife ko, hindi agad-agad naniwala. So, kinu-convince ko.
Ang ibig sabihin, Senador Tito, meron ng existing na batas na kapag ang mga pasyente ay nangangailangan ng elemento ng dangerous drug.
Republic Act 9165, the Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002, has this particular provision wherein an IRR and the DDB board resolution allows the use of any of these dangerous drugs, even cannabis.
One of my daughters, my youngest one, has a condition. She's epileptic. She had been taking epileptic medicines every day since she was 5.
Ako pa tutulong sa kanila kung gusto nila na humingi ng permiso. Bibigyan sila ng permiso eh. It's in the present law.
First of all, I don't think it was cascaded well to people that they can secure that special permit. You know, even if I had been able to secure one for myself or for Thea, I would have to import that, right? And that would be very expensive.
We have to consider always that we are a developing country. We cannot afford the things that the developed countries afford. You cannot expect them to buy all these imported preparations of cannabis.
Yun nga takot ng bayan. Pag nagbahay na ganon, elemento beta para tumasang crime rate, Senator.
There is data from the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. Ito lang taon na ito. More than 200 crimes committed under the influence of marijuana. If you're asking for the negative effects.
In the United States, we spend $10 to $20 billion a year enforcing the marijuana laws. Instead, we could be earning tens of billions of dollars. We are in the process of creating hundreds of thousands of legal jobs in this country. We are reducing the power of the gangsters and the mafias, both in the US and elsewhere.
I think that in the same way that they're testing all those medications, they should see for themselves that cannabis is not something that would make you a dangerous person if you start taking it.
I think the principal increase in consumption will be primarily among older people. It'll be older people who find they prefer marijuana to a pharmaceutical drug or to alcohol, or it helps them with sleeping or whatever that might be.
Show me proof. Show me proof. Scientific proof that it can do what you said it will do.
It's very difficult to conduct clinical trials. How can you conduct clinical trials if it is illegal?
Mapag-aralan muna kung meron ba talaga siyang epekto.
Amen to what Dr. Kalimag said. No? Pero sa akin po, Brother Eddie, I cannot and will never support the legalization of marijuana in any form unless it is proven that it can cure something.
Ito yung simula. Ito yung nakauwi na kami, June.
Shanting na yan.
May shunt na siya nito. Ito yung bumabalik kami sa hospital, nako-confine ng overnight para magparasynthesis. Yung manual na draining ng water. Kasi sabi ng doktor, yung water na na-drain dun sa tummy niya, hindi na-absorb ng body. Likot niya. Likot na lang niya to. Sorry anak, mainit. Malaki ang naging epekto nito sa amin. Lalo na nung unang araw na nalaman namin na siya ay may brain tumor. Ang tanging treatment na binigay ng doktor sa amin ay chemotherapy dahil inoperable nga ito. Salamat naman din kami sa mga doktor namin dahil honest sila sa mga magiging epekto nito sa aking anak. May epekto daw ito sa bone marrow, sa mga good cells din niya. Ang protocol na binigay sa kanya ay 30 plus na sessions. So, bilang isang ina, hindi ko ginawang anak ko doon. Bye-bye.
Ingat, ingat, ingat.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Mamaya, baka sana mabutan kita. Nalaman ko yung medical cannabis din. Doon desperado akong maghanap ng alternative medication sa anak ko. Nakita ko yung video ni William Courtney. At malinaw na sinabi niya na ang medical cannabis treatment, ang first line of defense na dapat ibigay sa mga bata, lalo-lalo na sa mga babies, at hindi ang chemotherapy.
Dr. Courtney, maybe you can tell us about whether it's something that's effective for children or not.
Large white center area is the tumor. They were putting cannabinoid oils on the baby's pacifier twice a day, and within 2 months there was a dramatic reduction. Currently, the child's being called a miracle baby. But this is the type of response that we should be insisting is frontline therapy for all children.
About 15 years ago, by chance, we decided to change the cell model we were working with, and we moved to cancer cells. We discovered that when we treated cancer cells with cannabinoids, we killed them. So we started a new line of research focused on the anti-tumor potential of these compounds. We work very closely with GW Pharmaceuticals. They are financing our research, so their goal and our goal is to reach the clinics as soon as possible. For them, I assume is for getting money, and for us is for a different reason, of course, but the goal is the same for both parties.
Cannabis kills cancer cells in 4 major ways. Through apoptosis, the programmed suicide of cancer cells. Next, it prevents the cancer from growing. It prevents the spread of the tumors into the normal cells. And cannabis prevents the formation of new blood vessels in tumors.
Why will I stop if I discovered that there is a component of this plant that can be used for medical purpose?
We're very close to the clinics with glioblastoma patients. Glioblastomas are a specific type of brain tumors that are very, very aggressive. There is a clinical trial already working on in the United Kingdom. Up to the preclinical level, cannabinoids, they work well as anti-tumor compounds. And preclinical means up to animal models of cancer. We don't have that answer for human patients yet.
I have a mom. In 2005, got diagnosed with papillary thyroid cancer. It was stage 4B, and it was terminal. And we went through the whole chemical treatment, the whole radioactive treatment.
Talo mo pa ang kulungan dahil nobody can come to you. You are isolated. Papainumin ka ng papainom na tubig. Magsha-shower ka at least 5 to 6 times a day. Kung talagang mahina ka, maluloka ka.
We kept doing this for a few years until me and my 2 brothers started researching about this cannabis plant.
First week, yung toothpick ang inaanohan ko dahil siyempre may takot pa ako.
2 months later, she went to her doctor, and the doctor told her to keep doing what she's doing because the cancer cells are in remission.
A lot of patients are also taking cannabis oil that they get from different vendors. Of course, they are not authorized medicines, but a lot of patients are taking them. We don't know if they are working or not because nobody's controlling these patients. Nobody's controlling the quality of the oils. Nobody's controlling the response of the patients. So we are wasting a lot of information there, and that's really unfortunate.
Hindi lahat ng tao can afford to go abroad to those countries na may legalized medical cannabis. Paano naman yung mga hindi kayang pumunta doon? Kaya namin, can't afford naman kami pumunta doon eh.
And this is Lynn Cervantes. She just passed away due to the complications of multiple sclerosis. And you will find here 70 co-authors of the HB 4477. 70 co-authors na yan. In the PCCS page, you'll find articles on medical cannabis, researches, groups, patients abroad who have been using medical cannabis to treat their diseases successfully, And you can message us. Ano yan marami ang sumusulat na sinasabi, where can we buy the oil? Sinong source? Pwede nyo bang ituro kami sa kanila? Tapos sinasabi namin, we regret that we do not sell cannabis and we cannot provide any information on who's selling cannabis. It's not easy to say we are sorry, we cannot help you. Lalo na yung nagsusulat, hihintayin pa ba namin maging legal ang medical cannabis para lang matulungan to anak namin. Sabi ng doktor, wala nang pag-asa. Para sa amin, ang pag-asa namin, medical cannabis, tapos wala kami makuha man lang. Ano yun? Mabigat.
Sino po itong mga sumusulat na ito? Ano po yung ginagawa niyo para matulungan sila?
Ako, ano yan? From north of Luzon to south of Mindanao. May mga Inglesero, may mga nagtatagalog, from all social classes Talagang cutting through social classes. May mga pasyente mismo sumusulat o kaya mga magulang, mga lolo, lola, kamag-anak, kapatid.
Very common sa atin, mga grupo na ito, para tayong naluto na sa gamot. Pag may sakit, dapat may corresponding na gamot. Drugs, synthetic usually. Ang ginagawa, binabalabalansi lang siya hanggang makontrol yung seizure disorders. But ang problema natin, kuminsan yung ganong mindset, may kulang at may mali. Pag masakit ang ulo, ano ibibigay? Paracetamol usually.
There is no single disease, I think, that can be explained by just one causative factor. All the illnesses are multifactorial. There's no single cause.
Cancer is not a reductionistic phenomenon. Cancer is a holistic phenomenon. And when you try to bring a reductionistic methodology like drugs and surgery to bear on a holistic phenomenon, you will completely miss the boat each and every time. You cannot do it.
Cannabis has a more holistic property compared to the purified active ingredients that is one-to-one correspondence. Single chemical explanation for relief of a certain symptom. And that coincides with the concept of illness looking from a holistic perspective.
If the physician and the patient is unfamiliar with cannabis, this means the patient has to take 5 different medications to control the 5 major symptoms of cancer, all of which have side effects, have drug interactions, and is costly to the patient. Cannabis can replace these 5 medications, which means it is safer, more economical, and easier for the patient to comply with this regimen.
Your immune system is more important. Even before the advent of antibiotics, even before the introduction of vaccines, even before the introduction of the so-called modern technologies in healthcare, people's health has improved dramatically just by improving their socioeconomic condition, improving sanitation, better income for the people, better nutrition, better housing, and things like that. Even the World Health Organization actually also recognized now what has been called as the social determinants of disease. I would even add social, cultural, and spiritual determinants of disease. And therefore, when we try to alleviate illnesses, We should consider all of this.
To be able to heal yourself, you have to feel good, you have to believe.
Even World Health Organization recognizes the so-called psychological aspects, mental well-being, as a very important factor in terms of healthcare and treatment of ailments.
For medical purposes, Catholic medical ethics allows that.
The drugs, kailan lang na-introduce yan eh. Kaya naman sikat ang drugs ngayon is because of the business part, mga drug companies, pharmaceutical companies. Kaya nakita nyo nung nag-introduce ng bill, sinong humaharang?
Today, we ask you to turn away from the spectacle of the past several months of politicking and misinformation. Our country has been distracted by this matter for too long. It is past time to move on. We have important work to do, real opportunities to seize, real problems to solve, real security matters to face.
Is a gateway drug kung saan pwedeng mag-umpisa sa marijuana pero mag-graduate sila dun sa mas matitinding dangerous drugs.
You cannot say marijuana is the gateway because usually a pusher will not just have marijuana. He will have maybe coke or he will have maybe some volumes or whatever. They'll tell you, oh, I have everything what you want.
We need to nip it in the bud right now and not even think about it.
Meeting and knowing these kind of hopefuls has opened the compassionate heart in me. And then I am very grateful that they have succeeded in opening that part in me, yung compassionate heart. Kailangan ko rin yun eh. Kailangan nating lahat.
You know the reason why maganda ang natural remedies, like given herbs, may tinatawag kasi kami na synergistic effect. The same way as a treatment plan, may synergism din like eating right, juicing, stress management, music. So pag pinagsama-sama mo yan, yun yung talagang magre-repair ng system. Hindi pwedeng isa lang ang ifo-focus mo. Sa halaman, let's say medical marijuana, hindi lang naman isa o dalawang chemical meron siya eh. Marami. Thousands of chemicals. But tigkakaunti. But when they work together, iisa lang ang magiging effect. But walang masyadong side effect. Unlike drugs, concentrated on drug, kaya pag ininom mo, asahan mo may side effect na malakas. Kasi isa lang eh. Pero kung tigkakaunti yan at sama-sama, like kayo, sama-sama na working together, so hindi kayo makakasakit, instead makakatulong.
Honorable members of this committee, let us abandon our fear of the unknown. Let us open our minds to the latest developments in the fast-moving world of holistic and integrative medicine.
The pharmaceutical companies are spending a huge amount of money now to investigate the medical properties of marijuana.
I think it's more important to get into the truth of it and the importance of fulfilling that basic human right to health.
The health system has been made dependent on profits rather than service to the people. And even the United Nations, in incorrectly classifying marijuana as a Schedule 1, actually has succumbed to these pressures from vested interests, and it's not based on scientific or medical evidence. We can start transforming the Philippines as a caring country where patients with legitimate medical needs can have safe, reliable, and affordable access to medical cannabis in a regulated environment under the mandate of the Department of Health.
In the end, tayo-tayo rin mga tao magkakasama at tayo-tayo rin lang ang magtutulungan. Di ba? Medyo nadadala ko doon.
Patients with seizure disorder, we don't have the time.
Ito na lang yung last resort namin para kay God, para mamuhay siya ng normal. Inihiling ko sa gobyerno na sana hindi lang maging last resort kung sakaling mapagbigyan kami ng medical cannabis treatment.
Ang among generation marijuana, wala ka ito. Marijuana is even medicinal.
As a father, bago malason yung anak ko, ako muna. Ako yung unang-unang nag-try.
We are caught quoting researchers from abroad. And it's high time that we establish our own research and our own data.
Dati kasi smoker din ako ng cigarette. Pag nawalan ako, lalo na pag ating gabi, pupunta pa ako ng bahay para bumili. Nakaka 2 liters ako ng Red Horse, yung grande. 2 to 3 bottles yun a night. Gabi-gabi. Away namin sa mag-asawa na sabihin mo na at least 10 times, 15 times a month. Parang halos nawala na. Wala na yung away. Grabe talaga yung naitulong sa akin ng marijuana. And not only me, pati din sa anak ko.